everyone, Kevin here, and thanks for watching The Bottom Line. If you don't already know, this series is all about custom lower trucks, and this episode is going to be good for those wanting to get into the custom truck world, or maybe those that have a truck and just don't know what style to apply to them, as we're going to talk about 5 different truck styles for your pickup. As you may notice also, we're at Alden American's new studio. These guys make some quality suspension components, but we wanted to give them a huge thanks for letting us use this place. And let's get back to it. We're going to start with the Pro Street style, and basically this started in the 70s with muscle cars being really hot, and guys with trucks wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to make their truck perform a little bit better, and kind of went from there. There wasn't really product support for them, so they would just kind of have to rob parts or make their own at the time. And this has progressed a little bit further. Like I said, it's more about performance than it is style, but a Pro Street truck does have some style to it, but it's maybe necessarily not the coolest looking thing out there. But if you want something that's going to go fast and get people's attention, this would be a way to go. We're going to start off with a 67 El Camino that we recently shot. It's owned by Chris Decker. And I know, El Camino, some guys may be like, hey, it's more a car and not really a truck. I say, hey, it's got a bed on it. So I consider it a truck. So let's get some more info from the owner and why he did his vehicle in this style.
So for me, Pro Street really started in the 80s. It's something that evolved out of guys that just loved drag racing but wanted to have their own vehicle, their own version of their streetable race car. And because of the inspiration of drag racing, so many people fell down that path, including myself. I grew up watching drag racing on TV, going to the drag strip with my family, watching cars do wheelies as they go down the track. And as I got older and got the opportunity to buy a car, I bought my El Camino, which immediately continued to slowly start evolving into that Pro Street style. First thing I did was change wheels, get skinnies, get big meats in the rear. You got to have that right wheel look to it. I did a bigger engine, makes plenty of horsepower. I've got over 600 horsepower. I've got weld racing wheels in the front with the Nitto 555s. I've got the Nitto 555R drag radial out back because, like in any true Pro Street car, you've got to have a racing style tire. These are great sticky tires. They do the job really well. They've been good at the track, been good on the street. Just an all-around awesome tire for that type of use. I've got a full chrome ollie roll cage, goes from the front to the rear, 16 different points, fully TIG welded. Like most Pro Street vehicles, you got to have a racing harness. I've got Simpson's 5-point harnesses for both me and the passenger. Got gauges to see what's going on. Got my shift light on the steering wheel column, and it's what helps make this thing one badass little Pro Street vehicle.
So in the late 80s and then the early 90s, things started to change as a lot of auto manufacturers started to make their trucks perform like cars, look a little bit more like cars. And that's really where the sport truck scene came out. Guys started to add lowered suspensions on there. And then they also started to do some paint jobs. Maybe not as crazy as the lowrider stuff, but something that was a little more catchy. Now, these vehicles were, nowadays would be considered mild, but back in the day, they were pretty eye-catching. And I think we got somebody here. Hey, Ellie, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Did you bring the truck by here?
I did.
Great, we were just talking about like sport trucks and how your truck is kind of like that. So can we check it out?
Yeah, nice, let's go.
So we were talking about sport trucks, and basically in the late 80s, early 90s, that was kind of the style of, having a vehicle that was, modified, but not, it was not crazy modified.
Mm-hmm.
I see you kind of done the same thing with your truck. Did you have any like influences in that?
I did. Actually, my mom and my sister both had a huge influence with me doing what I've done so far to my truck. The main thing was keeping it as original as possible without, cutting and all that stuff. No major mods, just, wheels, small performance upgrades. I think that was good enough.
Yeah, and I think what you've created here is something that's a bit eye-catching. You know, you can take it out, you can drive it. You know, it's not too crazy, so you can actually take it out, have some fun with it. I think you don't get that great gas mileage out of it or anything like that, so it's not something you know necessarily want to drive cross country or anything like that. But you can still have fun. I see you got some paint on here, and that's kind of or the exterior looks a little bit different, and that's something that you know, guys, you know, started doing in that era, was starting to dress things up so they looked a little bit eye-catching. But is this a wrap? Is it paint? What is it?
It is a wrap.
And what was your theme going forward with it?
I mean, fighter jet.
Well, it looks absolutely great. I mean, you've got it lowered. We did the video, and you can go back in it and check it out on the list. And when we did the billet wheels on this thing, well, the truck looks great. But I'm assuming that you did some performance mods to it. What did you do to it?
I did. One of the first things was a cold air intake. Then I got a tune. Then I did a performance exhaust system.
So it probably sounds really good. Can you start it up? Can we hear what it sounds like?
Yeah.
Oh, listen to that. Love it. That sounds really nice. It sounds like a little NASCAR or something. Can we see you take off or something like that? I really want to see this performance.
Let's go. What happened?
Yeah! All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for stopping by, and thanks for doing a little smoky burnout for us. It's awesome. I'll catch you next time. So as things started to evolve a little bit in the scene, guys started to take styling cues from the different segments and put them all together in one truck. And we kind of call that a street truck basically, where you have maybe, you know, some high horsepower on there, but you're not, you know, wanting to go drag race or anything like that. You got a nice paint job, or, you know, the exterior's done up a little bit, but, you know, maybe not like a lowrider, but pretty nice. Slam suspension, and rounded out with the nice interior and everything. And basically what these guys are trying to do is, you know, create kind of like a show vehicle, but then also, you know, have something there they can drive. And a good example of a street truck is Dave Crocker's F100 here. And Dave, tell me a little bit more.
Hey Kev, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, this is my 56 F100. I bought it about 10 years ago from my old high school football coach from my hometown up in Strathmore, California. Go Spartans. And my dad had told me that it was for sale. He had one when I was a kid. He regretted selling it. And I always told him if I got a chance, I'd buy one and we'd work on it together. So that's what we did. And he had it for a couple years and was driving it, and then decided to let me take it and try to improve on it a little bit. We started out as a small project and ended up with this, a little bit more than what I planned.
Yeah, and that's like so typical of a truck build, is that you know, start doing one thing and then it leads to another, and soon enough it snowballs and you get a full truck like this.
Yeah.
But you know what, I absolutely love them, you know, so you can't blame you. No negative words about it.
Well, you know, you start with one and then you go on to the other. Once you get it apart, you realize that, you know, once you have it apart, you might as well finish, you know. So that's what we did. And yeah, it turned out to be, you know, labor of love, and I'm very happy that we did it. You see that, you know, the stance of it right now, it's at its slam position right now. It's on air ride suspension, and it has 3 settings that you can automatically set, so you're not constantly fidgeting with the ride height. The wheels are the Bondsmead Quasar 20s and 22s in the back with the Nitto 555s on there. I think they look really good. They've worked really well together, and the ride is, you know, very good for a car like this. A lot of these show style trucks don't run very well, but this, like you said, is with the street cut truck, or was it sport truck category?
Street truck,
truck category. It's a show truck look with a performance truck ride, and that's really what we captured here.
Yeah, and what you got under the hood? I mean, you got some power under there, right?
Yeah, we do. We started with the 351 Windsor and bored and stroke out to 392, and it will definitely leave some rubber.
Yeah, and a truck like this can actually be, we talked about showing it, and it can be finished out, where, somebody doesn't really want to drive it. But, nowadays what we kind of like see as a street truck, we kind of want it to drive it a little bit, and enjoy it. And that's exactly what Dave has done, as he's got this truck. It's beautiful. It's not something he's going to drive cross country or anything like that. Don't even think about it, because you're going to get some rock chips or something like that. But he's not afraid to take it around the town, take it across, in the LA region here and go to a show or anything like that. But yeah, Dave, thanks for showing me your truck, and thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
All right, so about in the 80s, around that era, guys that were in lowriders were looking for an alternative, and they turned to trucks. Not everybody, that got into trucks was into lowriders, but this is kind of where it came from, is mini trucks. So I've got my S10, we showed it in another video, but we also got Josue here, and he's got his 96 Toyota right here. So Jose, tell me a little bit more about the mini truck style and how you built your truck.
So yeah, as you mentioned, the mini truck scene was like an offspring from the lowrider scene. Back in the 80s, probably even before then, people in the lowrider scene started picking up vehicles, trucks, to modify them and, hook them up and make them their own style. Slowly but surely, the mini truck scene kind of took a little bit of a different route and started creating kind of its own scene, or its own style, versus the earlier mini truck scenes, which is more lowrider influence. So you would see a lot more like the 15x10 McClayton wheels, stuff like that, and it slowly changed into more of its own scene, its own style. Part of the reason why I started liking it and getting into it was I had a cousin that was into the scene. Like late 80s into the early 90s, he was around the lowrider scene, had a B2500 series Mazda, lowered, slammed to the ground effects, and like a camper shell with like house speakers stuffed in the back. Then fast forward a few years later, I got my truck and started working on it myself a little bit with his helped me lower it. Just simple lowering springs in the front, lowering blocks in the rear. In all reality, it wasn't even lowering springs. It was more pull the springs out, cut them, put them back in, and lowering blocks in the rear. Rode like crap, but it looked good. Then from there, it kind of progressed. Came about, started hanging out with some of the guys from Severed, and they slowly started influencing me into, bagging it and getting a little bit lower and everything that, kind of goes with what's now the mini truck scene. First started off with just air shocks, then it progressed into the airbags, and obviously everything from there was, it's never low enough. How do we get lower? How do we do this? And
yeah, and I think some of it was, a lot of it was, there's some flash, some paint and stuff like that. But really what kind of drew it was getting these trucks low. They were affordable back in the day, so somebody could pick them up really easy and then drop some springs in there or something like that, maybe some spindles or whatever. Some guys used to heat up coils and stuff like that. I don't recommend that. That's an old school method. But then it grew a little further. We started getting bags, and then people thought that wasn't even enough, so they had to have the body on the ground. So basically where you either you modify your frame enough, which is kind of a modern thing, but back in the day, what they would do is like cut their floors and make the frame come up so you could sit down. But your truck is body drop. Tell me a bit about that and the suspension on it.
So yeah, so the progression of the truck itself, like I spoke on earlier, the truck started off as just lowered, cut springs in the front, lowering blocks in the rear, and slowly progressed from there to when it came time to pretty much finish the truck and get it to where it is now. Went about contacting Sadistic Ironworks. They went ahead and pretty much gutted the whole front suspension, redid it with new upper control arms, frame mounted mounts and everything, bag mounts, Went as far as, repairing the frame horns on the front end to match the body drop, the bumper with the body drop and everything else. Then from there, fast forward a little bit forward, and it was time to basically redo the rear suspension. Some of the rear suspension that was on there from previous wasn't kind of up to date, and everything just needed to be freshened up. So took the truck over to Trade 5 Customs and had Jeremy basically cut the frame off at the back of the back of the cab, and built a whole new subframe. Then from there, I introduced accurate suspension and everything else. So the truck itself is really, really high tech compared to what it was when we first started bagging these trucks in the 80s, 90s and all that. I mean, fast forward all this time, and it's a precise system. Everything's really legit, and and it's solid. So the progression of the mini truck and the air suspension and everything that goes with it has came a long ways in comparison to what we first started with years ago. Prior to me even being into the scene, this is a completely different animal. Everything's legit now.
Yeah, your truck's like completely finished out. I remember a buddy of mine shot it, what was it, like 6 years ago, something like that. And I could tell, this thing was fully done. It takes a lot of effort to get a vehicle like this, especially a mini truck. There's a lot of fabrication that has to go on and everything. But what kind of helped you drive you to the finish line and finish everything the way you did?
So basically what helped me and motivated me to finish the truck is this is a project that in all reality has been years in the making. I've had friends that motivated me to finish the truck, and also kind of made myself a promise to myself and to a club member that passed away years ago, Noel Rodriguez, that would kind of finish the truck in, I guess, his memory, his honor, or to tribute him. It was a truck that he had, basically a similar truck at the time that he passed, and was in the club. So when he passed, I kind of just said, eventually I want to finish the truck, and I want it to be something that he can kind of be proud of. And we had the same style as far as what we want to do with our trucks. So I know that, at the moment now, like, even as the way the truck sits, that it would be a truck that he would say, that's the truck is dope. It's it's to his likings, also to mine, because our styles were so similar.
Well, dude, thanks for coming out. I mean, this truck looks absolutely killer. Like I said, it's been done for a little bit. Mini trucks are pretty cool. Seeing the way they're styled and the fabrication that they've done, very heavy, getting them super low. Sometimes guys even chop top section bodies, do stuff like that to get them even lower. So, I mean, we call them sometimes like knuckle draggers, so you stick your hand out the window and you can touch the ground and everything. It's kind of been on the decline right now with mini trucks, but I also think down the road, they're gonna be coming up as these vehicles become maybe more like a collector vehicle. But yeah, like I said, Jose, thanks for hanging out and stopping by and showing us your truck.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so our final style would be the Pro Touring style. Would basically, I would say that came around a decade ago, and guys started realizing that they can get a little bit more out of their trucks. Instead of going straight, they can go around some corners, go around, an autocross course, which is a small type road course. And like I said, we were here at Alden American, and we're here with Garrett. He's the owner of the company, and basically they make some good quality coilovers. And he had a truck, and he just kind of wanted to demonstrate that, and that's what he built right behind us. So Garrett, tell me a little bit more about your truck.
Yeah, what's going on, man? So we've got our 71 C10. It's a short bed fleet side, LS swap. We've got a Scott's independent IFS, so that's an independent front suspension. Coilovers on all four corners, so you can fully adjust the ride height front and rear. You can also control the shock damping. So when you're controlling the shock damping, now you're capable of controlling the shock speed. So whether you're going fast, you're going slow, you're turning, you're cornering, you can really tune in and dial in your suspension with a set of adjustable coilover shocks. So we've got the Scott's independent front suspension up front. In the rear, we've got a full custom 4-link. The truck's been C-notched. Really allows you to get that stance, get everything down low. So with the full combination there, this thing's dialed. Whether you're looking to run it on the street, hit the track, it's built. 6-speed manual, LS, and Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, and one of those things that I wanted to point out, I think you already put a little bit mention on, is that coilovers used to have this sort of stigma to them that you put them on a vehicle and they rode really stiff. And I think products like yours actually just kind of go against all that and actually prove that you can put these on a vehicle, have it set up for a track, and then also drive on it and have it smooth.
Yeah, totally. And that's kind of the pro touring, the pro truck build kind of, mentality, is that this thing is designed for the street. You could run it on the track. And coilovers and so forth have come a long way. I mean, all of our springs are high tensile, the cold wound, made here in America. And, our shocks as well. Just picking a high quality shock and spring and doing the measurements, doing your homework, getting a professional setup is really going to dial in your ride. So with all that, coilovers, it's the way to go.
Cool. Let's check out a little bit more. Let's look underneath the hood and see what you got powering this thing.
Let's check it out, man. So we've got, it's just a runner, man. Kind of threw it together for SEMA a couple years ago, and more stuff to go through, but just LS swap. It's been sitting for a little bit, so kind of pulling it out, going back through everything. But yeah, it's just a junkyard LS out of an 01 SS Camaro, T56, same deal. So you got a manual transmission, got the LS motor, in full-blown coilovers and so forth.
Yeah, and this truck looks a bit nice, and like we were saying about with the different styles and everything. Pro Touring, I mean, you could have a vehicle that looks, really nice. As you can see, Garrett's truck's more like, kind of like a race vehicle, stuff was thrown together. Though it does look pretty good, it's purpose built. So I think he's kind of proved that there, and just basically where this style has gone. So thanks for everybody for watching, and hope you like this video. And if you do, make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing. Give us a like, and drop a comment below if you had some other thoughts about anything, and we'll catch you next time.